Welcome everyone. Today is all about the volley and the 3 myths that you need to be aware of. If you can overcome these 3 myths, you can improve your volley through more power, more spin, and ultimately better placement. All right, let's get right into it. The very first myth is that there is no swing on the volley.
Exactly. I hear that all the time, that you shouldn't take any swing on your volley, that you should just hold the racket here. The reality is you need to take the racket back in order to get any power. You want to take the racket back and go through the volley so that you're putting racket head speed for power and also underspin so the ball stays low when it hits the other side of the net.
The second myth is that the ball must be blocked out in front of your body.
Exactly. If you reach out and block the ball out in front, there's no way to create racket head speed and there's no way to create slice. So I want to bring the racket back, but let the ball get closer to me so that I can go through it and stick the volley, put some slice on it, and keep the ball low on the other side of the net.
And the third myth, that this racket head must stay above your wrist.
Exactly. That is true on higher volleys, but when the ball gets low, we need to drop the racket head below the wrist. We want to maintain this wrist angle between the wrist and the racket, but we can let the racket head drop below the wrist. Yeah, we're going to show you some of our volleys and really point out some of these key factors that we've been talking about. How to keep the ball closer to our body so we can go through it. How to take a bigger backswing and hit with some slice. And also how to keep that wrist firm even on those low balls when the racket head may have to drop below the wrist.
All right, so we're going to talk about the volley, and this is Todd's volley. Todd, tell us about your forehand volley here.
Well, the first thing I'm noticing is a severe lack of knee bend, which is more profound than I realized without seeing the video. But I have been dealing with a couple of sore knees the last month, which are improving, but yeah, I've been coaching a lot, playing a lot, teaching a lot, and I've just been having some sore knees. So that part is not very textbook, but the rest of it does look pretty good.
So what about the backswing, where it stops there?
Right. You can see on the backswing that I'm pushing the handle in front, but the racket head is pretty far behind me, which is allowing me to really create some solid racket head speed and also some extension through the volley.
So what do you think that means when we always hear that you can't take the racket back at all?
Right. I think that is definitely a misconception about how to hit a powerful volley. You will see pros with a small backswing when the ball is hit extremely hard, but on a routine, normal volley, there is a backswing and there is some movement to the racket. And this is a good example of that right here, where the racket head goes back even though the handle stays out in front, and also you can see my elbow is inside towards my stomach.
All right, the second is the contact point. Look at this contact point is back in his stance. It is not far out in front. Also, I drew this red line to show you the height of the racket head is below the wrist. So Todd, tell us a little more.
Yeah, once again, my eyes are really far from the ball. My legs are very straight. Not very good form for low volleys. Maybe better for high volleys, but on these low volleys, I should be getting down lower where I'm watching the ball and having a much lower point of contact where my eyes are next to the ball. But besides that, I like the contact point. It's further back. It's between my feet.
Yep.
It's not way out in front, and it's allowing me to extend through the volley. It's allowing me to get some racket head speed because I go through, and it's also letting that bottom edge slide under, which is creating some backspin.
Notice when you do hit the slice, though, it actually strikes the ball flat on, but it's going from a high to low, so it kind of slides underneath the ball. You can see it in the finish there, which does allow it to hit that spin and keep that ball low for the opponent.
Yeah, I noticed 2 other positives. My eyes and head are staying really still throughout the shot, which is good to see.
Yeah.
And I'm also maintaining that angle of my wrist towards the handle throughout the swing, keeping that L throughout the swing, which also looks good. Even though the racket head does drop below my wrist, I'm maintaining that angle throughout the swing.
Right.
I think that is one of the most important parts of a good volley, is just maintaining that angle.
I agree. All right, the last part is the finish, which that finish only happens because he has not reached too far in front of him to make contact with the ball. If there was contact out in front, we wouldn't be able to create that swing. These lines are showing you the finish and then the distance from the start of the racket to the finish of the racket. It's pretty significant.
Yeah, you can see also that my strings are pointed up to the sky at the end. They're perpendicular to the ground at contact, but the bottom edge slides under through contact and after contact, and then the strings are pointed up at the end. This is a sign that I'm putting backspin on the ball, that I'm coming from high to low. So the only way to really do that is to create that length of swing by getting the racket head back and then extending through after contact.
All right, next is my volley, the backhand volley. I think that right off the bat, what I notice is how far the racket goes back. It actually goes behind my shoulder. And I personally have my racket always touches my shoulder, so it goes pretty far back to start out with.
Yeah, I mean, the tip of the racket's pointing towards that side fence. And, I've seen Federer volley like this, and I definitely see him doing that on his backhand slice. So I think it's definitely a sign that you're getting the racket back a good distance and allowing yourself for some good racket head speed.
I think that it could be further back on the backhand because the shoulder's out in front, and so you don't run quite the risk of hitting the ball late.
Right, I agree.
Next, it goes to the contact point. So the contact point is, I drew with these red arrows, is even with my knee. So again, it's far back in the stance. It is not out in front of the body like a lot of people think it is. It's certainly not a block. We try to slice every volley. It's so important to slice the volley because if you don't do that, the next ball gets hit so hard at you, you can't control the next ball. So slicing the ball is a big factor, and being able to create a take back and a contact point that is further back in your stance, I think is crucial.
Yeah, and you can see that bottom edge gets under the ball through contact, and that just allows you to get under the ball on low volleys, on any volley, because the ball is dropping low. You've got to get that bottom edge under the ball so you don't hit it in the net. Players that hit that blocked flat volley seem to hit the ball in the net a lot because they're not getting the racket face under the ball. Yeah.
Try to ignore the fact now that I'm looking at that I don't tie my shoes. I haven't done that in 18 years, so I don't know. Try to ignore that.
Seems to work for you.
Next, how far the finish goes beyond contact. So if we were to block that ball out in front, we wouldn't have anything left to go past the tennis ball. And so if you notice the finish on this, as just like Todd's, the racket face opens up, but it is quite a bit of a distance beyond the point at which I contacted the ball.
Exactly. You're taking the racket back behind your left shoulder and going all the way through in front of you, a good, 5 feet total, that distance from backswing to finish. It's a longer stroke and much more powerful swing than you could get from just blocking it.
Yeah, I would say that distance on both of the forehand and the backhand volley definitely crushed the idea that the ball is blocked and that there is no swing. There is definitely a swing. But I think what you'll notice on the swing is that it never really breaks the line of our body. It's always on the side. It's always on the same side that it starts on. I think that's key. If I take that volley and I go across my body and I break the line of the ball, it does turn into a swing. It turns into similar to like a ground stroke swing. And we try to avoid that on volleys.
Yeah, and same as my volley, that wrist angle, the angle between the handle and your wrist is staying constant throughout the swing. That is a key. And for me, I like to use my left hand to kind of get that angle set when I'm in ready position. And I just try to hold that angle throughout the swing.
And this is how we volley. Hopefully we gave you a good understanding of what to look for on the volley and things that you can do to improve your own volley. As you can see, those 3 myths don't hold true. So if you want to improve your volley, you need to have some kind of a take back, some kind of a swing. You need to make sure that your ball is not too far in front of you and you're not using a block, and that this angle is maintained but the racket head often does drop below the wrist on a lower volley.
If you like the video you've seen today, please subscribe to our channel. And don't be afraid to share these videos with your tennis friends.
Remember to hit that like button. Also, check out our website, tennisbeyond.com. Next year, if you're going to be at the BNP or the US Open, we are running camps there, so make sure to check that out.